Good evening, Nick family. I'm Stephanie, the host of Queen's Court. Every Monday, 8 p.m., we meet here to talk about the Knicks, what's going on with them. Um, I'm joined by Tony Crow from our brother channel, Knicks and Bruises. He has a show every Monday and Wednesday. I believe Monday is a panel show, comes on right before my show. Wednesday, he does a show with fans. I call it therapy, but basically Knicks and Bruises, where fans get the opportunity to talk about their Knick fandom and the heartaches they've experienced over the years. So if you haven't had that opportunity, please subscribe to his channel. Check out those videos. I told my story, Sim told his story, Josh told his story, and there are many other fans on that channel who spoke about their heartaches with the Knicks. I'm also joined by Josh, aka Uncle Folio, from The Controversy, right here on the Nothing But Knicks channel. He will release videos on controversial topics related to the Knicks. But from what I understand, he's released 2 live shows so far. One on the Knicks players having to be vaccinated in order to practice and play in New York City, and another one on RJ Barrett and whether or not he will be an all-star this upcoming season. So if you haven't already, please, right here on Nothing But Knicks channel, check out Josh in the Controversy. And again, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, Nothing But Knicks. Hit that notification button so that you'll be notified anytime the Queen's Court is about to start, anytime Josh Controversy video or live show is about to start, and anytime, of course, Sim, the owner, creator of Nothing But Knicks, drops a video or go live. I just wanted to say, before I even get into what we're going to talk about today, thank you so much for the love. Since I've been a part of the MBK family, you guys have been great. You guys have been accepting, and that's for real. I appreciate the love. We don't always agree, and I think that's great. I think that makes for a great show. I think that makes for a great Knick community. So if you disagree, put it in the chat. You can call into the show. I would appreciate talking to you. And as of late, I've been reading the comments after the show and replying. So again, we don't always agree, but from my perspective, it's nothing but love. So I appreciate that. Today, we're going to talk about which Knicks player could be an X factor this year and basically push the Knicks over the top. And I don't mean, a little improvement. Which Knicks player, if they were to take their game to another level, would take the Knicks to another level? We're going to talk a little bit about Thibodeau. I've given my opinion over the past few weeks, but I'm interested in the panelists. If they think there's anything that Tibbs needs to do in this upcoming season differently, or just having different personnel is enough. And lastly, we're going to continue with our roster comparison. We're going to do the big 3, the teams that finished in the first 3 spots last season: Philadelphia 76ers, Brooklyn Nets, Milwaukee Bucks. Have we, the Knicks, gained any ground since then? So I appreciate you guys. For those that's going to opening night with the Nothing But Knicks family, appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing you. We're going to do a live show, pregame show, a live postgame show, and Queen's Court merchandise has dropped. So below there's a link to the Nothing But Knicks store. Get your t-shirts, hats, whatever it is. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to put in a big order. So again, let's start. Tony, Josh, fellas, how are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good.
Of course.
I'm ready to get this started. Triple header every Monday.
Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Salute MBK fam and all the Knick family out there. Queen, always a pleasure to be on here. Let's get it going. Let's talk about these Knicks.
Yes. I want to start with the X factor. It's just so crazy, and I just have to accept that at this time of the year, whatever topic you coming up with, somebody else came up with it, and it's okay. So I'm thinking I'm doing something, putting the X factor, and then I go online and divine the whole show on the X factor. But it's all good. It's all good. Different opinions. I guess the first question is, is there anybody on this team who, if they pop and make a significant leap, changes everything for the Knicks? I mean, I think right now we're going to be a very good team, but is there anybody who would elevate us? I don't know, 50 something wins, the Eastern Conference Finals, top 3 seed. Is there anybody, in your opinion, who was to really pop and have like an all-star type season, would change the Knicks' fortunes this year?
I already know. I think me and Josh are gonna agree on this one. But I'm gonna jump on it first and say RJ Barrett. Early in the off season, I've been, once we had these acquisitions, I said, don't be surprised if he takes a step back. Don't, production wise. Don't be surprised if he doesn't get as much shots as he did, his rookie year. But I guess the more I look at it, I think the same could be said on the flip side, because he's gonna have these opportunities. He's gonna have more open looks than he's accustomed to. And then I think you said on my show you want to see aggression from him, or I think that was Sim. Aggression from RJ. So if he becomes or remains or continues to be aggressive, then I think those numbers can skyrocket and surpass last year. Because I think his efficiency is going to go up. He's going to have more open looks and things of that nature. So if he's aggressive now and saying, anytime I have the ball, I have to do something, not necessarily score, but I got to do something. I got to make something happen. At that point, I think sky's the limit for him offensively. But more importantly, if he accepts the role, the Reggie Bullock role of guarding the best offensive perimeter guy on the other team, and does that successfully, then I don't even think it matters how much he improves offensively. I think if he buys into that role and just says, I'm going to be a lockdown guy, he could still come out with 12 points a game and 6 rebounds and 6 assists. And to me, that's going to be huge for us. You know what I mean?
That going to be? Oh, sorry, we got to finish.
I think that puts us in top 4 again, at the very least. And that's with the improvements of the league or the East.
Right.
I don't know.
That takes us. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Pause. So when you pause,
go ahead.
That you finished your statement. Do you think that's a big? If say he becomes a defensive stopper and he averages, let's even say 15 points a game, do you think that's is that enough of an X factor to change our fortunes and put us somewhere we were not expecting? So like right now, 4th seed, people are saying 4 to 6 seed. People are saying, I don't know, 45. I've heard some people even say 50 wins. No one is putting us in the top third as far as, top 3, maybe some people, or Eastern Conference Finals. Do you think RJ doing what you just said moves the needle and moves us above what our expectations are right now for this team?
I think it does, but the rest of the team is going to have the expected year. They don't have to exceed expectation. If everybody comes in and does what they did last year, but RJ steps up and becomes a defensive stopper, I think 100% that changes the whole dynamic of this team. We have enough offense on this team with the guys we acquired, with Julius, with Rose. I think Burks is gonna step up and be more efficient at the very least. Quickly. Yeah, I think the question mark on this team right now is, can we sustain the defense that we had last year? And I think the wing position, I think RJ could do that for us if he steps up defensively.
Okay, Josh, any comments on that, or you just want to get into who you think?
A little bit of both. I totally agree with Tony, and I'll take it a step further. If RJ Barrett, let's consider everything. Kemba Walker being healthy, and the Knicks basically, we know who we have already going into the next season. If RJ Barrett takes that step, over 20 points per game, shooting very, very efficient from the field, getting into that all-star conversation, I believe the Knicks can really make some noise in the Eastern Conference.
Right.
Really, no doubt. And not just this year, I'm talking like down the road, because now if RJ Barrett steps into that level of all-star contention, so to speak, now the Knicks have two guys in which they can hang their hat on and say, these two guys, we're going to build around these two guys. Some people may argue RJ Barrett's already at that level. We need to build around RJ right now. I'm not as bullish on that. But if RJ Barrett gets to that level where, this kid is going to be something else, like Jason Tatum level, then I think the Knicks really have something for the years moving forward. But I also want to add a second player. I know, you mentioned X Factor and who takes that leap. RJ, in terms of taking that leap, is the guy I would use. But as far as X Factor is concerned, Kemba Walker is that guy. His health. If Kemba Walker can stay healthy and give us, 50 to 60 games of health as a starting point guard, that changes everything for this team. Because last season, that was the big problem. We didn't have a good, consistent point guard. We had consistency there. He just wasn't that good. If Kemba Walker can return to at least some sort of that all-star shape that he was in Charlotte, and even some of his times in Boston where he was the starting point guard for the majority of the season, I think that within itself takes the Knicks to a level where we're going to be very, very tough to beat in the Eastern Conference. So I'm going to say RJ Barrett as far as taking that leap, and also Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker to me is the X factor. If he stays healthy, this Knicks team is a lot different on offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. And actually, Kemba, I actually have two, but Kemba Walker, if I had to pick one, it would be Kemba. If Kemba is Kemba, right? I think it changes everything for the Knicks. If he doesn't have a chronic knee issue that needs to be managed, and we don't know that for sure. We're hearing rumblings. We don't know that for sure. And he could play in back-to-backs. And we don't have to limit his minutes. And we only limiting his minutes because we want to get roles in there, not because we have to limit his minutes. And he's able to be the Kemba of Charlotte. Then now you have to, like Josh, you were talking about, RJ would be that next player next to Randall. But if Kemba is the Kemba of Charlotte, he would be that. Right. He would be that next to Randall. So I think that Kemba is an X factor for sure in terms of his health, the number of games he plays. I don't really have a lot of concerns like some people do about his actual game. Like, I think his actual game is going to be okay. I don't really have that concern. But that's my X factor. If Kemba is Kemba, it's a wrap. I think if Kemba is Kemba, I think we win over 50 games. I think if Kemba is Kemba, we're challenging for that third spot in the top three, one of those top three spots. And I think that there's a chance to go to the semifinals, to the Eastern Conference Final. I mean, you got to look back. I know it's hard for us to see, but I'm talking about Randall having a season similar to that he had last year.
Right. And
Kemba having a Charlotte-like Kemba season.
Right.
If those two things happen, and remember, now you still have RJ, you still have Fournier, you still have Mitchell Robinson and Noel, and all of these other guys falling in behind them. If Kemba is Kemba, it changes everything for the Knicks. So he is definitely my X factor. But another player I would say would be Mitch. And I don't think Mitch has to, I know we want him to develop his offensive game. And I think if he does, it would definitely help us. But if Mitch is a defensive demon, that changes everything for us. If he's a monster rebounder, if he's deflecting shots, changing shots, blocking shots, if he's playing that pick and roll defense very well, where it's like, whew, yes, we can get past the point guard. They not Elfrid Payton. Yes, we can get past them relatively easy, or it's not as hard as it used to be. But once we do, this guy back there is just on fire. I think that would definitely change things for the Knicks. But my first choice would be Kemba.
And just to reiterate, if I'm gonna give a second one, I'm gonna agree with you, Queen, and say Mitch as well. I think his presence in the playoffs might have made a difference. I think we definitely win more than one game if he plays. If he keeps the trajectory from before the first injury, I think that changes things as well. I mean, he was on pace to be averaging a double-double, you know what I mean, by that time. Well, not saying he was on pace. His trajectory was going up. His points per games was over 10. His rebounds at that point was going over 10 for the last, I think, 10 games prior to him getting hurt. So if he could maintain that type of those type of stats, and you hear him, he's motivated, he wants to be defensive player of the year. So I'm gonna say if he's in that top 5 of that category next year, that's gonna be a big difference. And then, like Kemba, obviously Mitch, and then everybody on the roster, health. If everybody could just remain healthy, sky's the limit.
I just want to add, about Mitchell Robinson, I'm not looking at Mitchell Robinson in that light because the Knicks were able to do well without Mitchell Robinson last year. I'm not saying he won't be important to this team. That's not what I'm saying at all. He's going to be very, very important. But as far as the Knicks taking that leap into, top 3 in the conference, to me, it has to start on offense because as good as we were on defense, we just couldn't score last year a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if Kemba Walker or RJ Barrett takes that, or, not take that step, Kemba Walker's already been there. But if his health is not a question and he's able to go back to those Charlotte days, or RJ Barrett takes that level into all-stardom, then I think that will propel the team more than anything because we got to be able to score the basketball. With the new additions that we made in the offseason, there's no reason why the Knicks should still be having offensive problems. And it's going to start with Kemba Walker and RJ Barrett, in my opinion.
Right.
I agree. Just to reiterate real quick, though, we gained offense, like you mentioned. We need to sustain defense, at the very least sustain it. You know what I mean? I don't know if we can improve defensively from last year, but, Mitch could help us sustain that level of defense. And that got us as far as it got us. The additions, I think, will be the X factor in the playoffs. But for us to maintain that level of defense that we played with last year, at the very least, if it's not coming from the guard or wing, which I hope it does, we're going to have that last line of defense. I think we're going to need the two-headed monster. We can't rely on Noel for the majority of the season, and I don't think we could rely on Mitch either. I think we're going to need both those guys as that last line of defense just to sustain that defensive level from last year.
Yeah, let me add to that, and then I'll get to the chat. I think defensively we're weaker up front, right? I mean, as much as Kemba and Rose is going to bring great offense for us, and I'm not saying they're extremely poor defenders, but I'm not sure if, the opposing point guard, I don't think they were afraid of Peyton either, but I think they knew they had to work a little bit. He was a bigger guard. He was a little longer. Maybe he would give them some trouble. I don't think they're going to get any trouble from, I shouldn't say any trouble, as much trouble from Kemba and Rose on the defensive end. And now on the wings with RJ Barrett and Fournier, I mean, I'm hoping RJ takes that leap defensively. I think his defense got much better as the season went on, but we're going to need even more of that. He may, as Tony said, have to be our defensive stopper on the wing, or at least take on the best wing on the opposing team. And Fournier is a willing defender. He's hard-nosed, but I'm not sure our defense is going to be as strong from the point guard in the wing position. What do you guys think?
So yeah, when you mentioned up front, I thought you were talking about the centers, like the front court, but you specified the guards and the wings. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. If that wing defense is not there, then I think that puts our centers, primarily Mitchell Robinson and Nerlens Noel, at a disadvantage. That's what Atlanta did. They were able to get through the pick and roll. Trae Young ran the pick and roll to death, and our bigs didn't have no answer for it because they were in a liable spot. So the defense does need to start on the wings and at the guard spot. And if we're able to solidify that, I think that would make it easier for Mitchell Robinson. But if Mitchell Robinson does become this defensive player of the year, you still got to be able to, help him out and not let guards get past you all the time and just get to the rim more willy-nilly, right? So I think it does need to start from the guard and wing position, like you said. And I think this, if I want Mitchell Robinson to be there, I want him to be healthy. But if Mitchell Robinson can give us half of what he did last season, I think we'll be fine. The issue is really going to be at the guard and wing spot, in my opinion.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know about half though. We're gonna need at least the 8 and 8.
Right. Shout out to the chat. Yeah, I correct myself. When I said up front, I meant in the backcourt and the wing. I think in the front court we're going to be fine. I think I don't have the exact stat, but I think Randall was one of the top 10 defenders at his position, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we'll be okay up front. Shout out to the chat. There's somebody blocked 53. Obi is the X factor off the bench. Somebody said Kemba always gets beat on the pick and roll. Mitch has to stay healthy. Obviously, Kemba can't defend. Yeah. Anyway, Kemba at 100% is our best player unless someone else makes a leap. I mean, you can argue that. Is Charlotte Kemba better than
last year's Randall?
Last year's Randall. Yeah, you can argue that. Kemba is home. Kemba is going to show out. D Public Enemy. Appreciate you. Tricky Nikki, Pudge, Nice, Stephadon, all of you. Shot Powers. Appreciate you. Anything else? On that, I mean, I think the flip side of that is if these guys, but I think we've talked about that. If these guys don't pop, what's the floor? But go ahead, Tony.
If the guys we just mentioned don't pop, what's the floor, or just the Knicks in general? I think Kemba has to pop. I think he's gonna be motivated more than anything. You know what I mean? Coming home, so I think he's gonna be up there, surprising people. Hopefully the rest that he's gotten this offseason and towards the tail end of last year, hopefully that helps him with the knee issues. But I don't know. I'm excited. I can't wait till the season start.
I think the floor, to answer the question, I think the floor for the Knicks is pretty much a lot of what we've seen last season, right? Not having that true consistent point guard out there, so that's going to be an issue. Offense is going to be a little bit stagnant, but at least at that point we'll have Fournier depending on we get some points from him. And then there's going to be a lot of Julius Randle running ISO ball, which he did pretty well last season. People hate that. They want to see more of a team style, but Julius Randle led us to the playoffs based on playing isolation basketball from the perimeter. So it's going to be a lot more of that. I think those problems will be amplified. That floor will be amplified a little bit more once we get to the playoffs and face off against teams who are able to lock in defensively, like what Atlanta did. We probably won't even play Atlanta in the first round, but it probably will be another team out there that can lock in defensively. And I think when those problems will be amplified at that point. During the regular season, though, I think with the talent that Knicks have, I still think they can win some games, still be competitive in the Eastern Conference, not get blown out. Those type of things. The seeding to me really won't matter. It's all about matchups and who we play in the first round of the playoffs. So I think it'll be a lot more of last year. That's the floor for this team. I don't see anything lower than that.
Right. Shout out to the chat. Somebody said that let's not forget about Fournier, that they think Fournier would be It's Me, Don't Sleep on the Fournier edition. And someone else said that they saw Fournier as the X Factor. DJ Space Ghost. Panelists forgetting about Fournier. If he averages over 20, that's a big X factor right there. I just think Fournier, that's to be expected. I think Fournier, to me, for him to take the Knicks to another level, it would have to be more than 20. He would have to just like become the Knicks' second best player. And something way more than we expect. Like, he's a really good player as it is. So I don't think him averaging 20, do you think that raises our ceiling?
I think it does, in the simple fact that we wasn't getting 20 points from Bullock, and if we did, it was a once in a blue. Even some of his better performing games weren't a 20-point game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we was happy with a 5 for 8 performance, 4 3-pointers, and some good defense. So if Fournier's giving good defense, but it's consistently giving us 17 points, I think that is 100% an X factor. And then if you look at it from the Kemba Walker and Peyton standpoint, where if he's giving us decent defense and 15 to 20 points, now that I'm putting it this way, I think the new additions may be the X factors. You know what I mean? Especially if we sustain our defense.
I think definitely they improve our team, but I'm talking about next level. I'm talking about like more than we even expected with them. Like, our expectations rose when we brought them onto our team. But I mean, like, they would have to pop to like another level to move us.
Do you think
to like top 3? Put it that way.
Do you think those two guys give us the luxury? I mean, and we kind of mentioned this last show, but do you think they give us the luxury to where maybe two guys could have a bad game? Or, you know what I mean? Like, because you think about it, RJ Randall kind of had a bad series, right? Do you think
there's no kind of about it?
All right. They had a bad series. Do you think the addition of those two players gives us the luxury to where they could have a bad series, but we could win a series because of those two guys? Because to me, because I think so.
My bad. I'm sorry. In a playoff series, you got to have all your horses. You got to have all your horses in the playoffs. Maybe in the regular season we can get away with some games here and there, but in the playoffs, all your dogs have to be on. It has to be that way. That's the way I'm looking at it.
I think to win a championship or over the course of the playoffs, you're gonna need everybody at a certain point. But I think you could win a series with a guy or two, more likely a guy, having a bad series. Other guys are gonna have to, because that's when
I guess it depends on who those guys are. I mean, I think and Divine, welcome to the show, to the panel.
Reverend Divine is here.
The series is tough. I mean, I think I'm muted.
No, Divine is muted.
Divine is muted. Like, I think you can miss. Yeah, you're still muted.
They said the host has unmuted your mic.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. Welcome to the panel.
Appreciate it. Welcome. Glad to be here.
I think that in a series, you might be able to get away with a game if a player doesn't show up. But like, say, for example, let's just say our horses, it's those in the starting lineup, those 5. For a series, RJ doesn't show up and Randall doesn't show up. I think those other guys can carry us and we win. You could pick any 2 guys. I would still say we would have a hard time winning a series if 2 out of those 5 have a terrible playoff series.
I'm not saying it'd be easy, but I'm looking at it from perspective of they had a complete bad series. We won 1 game, but we didn't really get blown out the water Every game.
We did.
Every
Yeah.
game?
Yes. The
I
first,
gotta go. I gotta
yeah,
go
you
back
gotta
and
go
watch.
back.
I gotta
And
go
so-
back and watch.
when everybody hating on Elf, but Elf was a placeholder. He allowed us to keep our rotations intact. And those first two games, I think we lost 4 points or something, 2 points or whatever. As soon as we took Elf out of that starting lineup, and we put that was a wrap. We got blown out. The rest of the games we got blown out. But Divine, this shouldn't be a difficult topic for you because I was just looking at your show and you talked about the X Factor. So I was like, man, he talked about it already.
Great
But anyway,
great minds to like. Yeah. I mean,
who's your X Factor for the team that takes us to another level?
I think, from my perspective, Mitchell Robinson. Just because I think we lost a little bit on the defense end, so he's gonna be the one that really had to be that defense anchor in the starting line because losing Reggie Bullock and that was Alfred Payton took away from the defense in the starting lineup. So I do think his defense would be a plus, and I think with the shooters they put around him with Fournier, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and Kemba Walker, he got a good what I would say is he got that middle bicep, and all them guys can hit on the perimeter and shoot shots. They all shoot close to 40% from the 3-point line. But Kemba Walker a little over league average. But Mitchell Robinson, I think if he would play last year, he missed 43 games. We would have won 5 of them. We would have won 5 or 6 of them games with Mitchell Robinson on the Knicks last year. So. If we would have played at least 40-something games, I think we would have been a much better team. That's why I got him as my X factor because I think we lost a little bit on the defense end. So we're going to need his presence for sure to be able to do the things that he could do on a basketball court for me.
Okay. I mentioned Mitch as well, but I think for him to take us to another level, it wouldn't just be 10 points, 10 rebounds. Like he would just have to be on fire. I don't know if you remember that little stretch that Noel had when it seemed like he was just on fire. Like that would have to be Mitch all season, like to take us to another level. But that being said, I think we are going to be better with him back there.
Especially you can get him to at least close to at least 24 to 26 minutes a game. Mitchell Robinson doing this on 12, 13, 20 minutes because he fouling out so much in his rookie year. Then the next year, 61 games, they had short season. He was improving, but I think when they brought Kenny Payne on, he cut down on the foul. So now it means he can stay in the game with more time now. So when you get 2 fouls and go to the bench, you losing your minutes and your chance to score, your chance to rebound. So I think if he could stay on that court, Mitchell Robinson would be a dominant for the Knicks. I just think that he got the skill set, but he don't get to play a lot. In his first 3 years, it was kind of like, whoa, you're fouling out in your first year, like I said. So he didn't really have a long. And then last year, as soon as he get ready to get to 36 minutes, he go down with an injury, and he was making improvement. Then I think Mitch going to easily be a double-double this year if he stay on the court. I just think that
in order for him to be an X factor, how much do you think and by X factor, I mean, take us to the next level. How much would he have to average?
I think I'm good with 14, but it's not so much the offense, it's the defense for me.
Right.
Because we got offense. That's not the least of my worry with the starting 5 we got.
Right.
I think that, I don't think you need Mitch to go out there and I just need Mitch to affect the game like Rudy Gobert do. Just affect the game. I think that's what we need because, like I said, we lost it on the defense. And so he just needs to affect the game and let Kemba Walker, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and Devin Fournier just do their thing. He clean up the offensive rebounds, which I think people underestimate how bad we missed it because he's a better offensive rebounder than Noel by far. You know what I mean? So I think that makes a difference along with maybe getting 3 extra points here or 6 points there. So I think Mitchell Robinson in that middle because we got a short team. Think about our whole starting 5. None of them cats over 6'9", except for Julius Randle. Everybody else is. So I think he's important with the length. That for me, that's why I really pretty much got on there. Let me take up too much time though.
No. It's fine. I had Mitch too, but I think he would have to be on fire to take us to like the third seed. Like he would have to pop really big. And when you think about Gobert, and I'm hoping this for Mitch, just like Tony said, I would like to see Mitch become a better defensive rebounder. So like sometimes when you look at Capella's, because I play fantasy basketball, and when you play fantasy basketball, you always looking over the box scores the next day to see how your players did and who you could pick up. And when you look at Gobert and you look at Capella and those guys, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks, 17 rebounds, 4 blocks. Mm-hmm. Even if they got 8 points, 9 points, like you, to your point, Devon, not that big of a deal. But when you look at their rebounding and their block shots, and you like, wow, that's it. So I would love to see a stat line from Mitch: 8 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks. I don't know if he can do that every single game, but I would like to see more of that. Yes, Tony.
I just want to point out that I'm going to die on that hill. Now you can't consider us have gotten blown out in the last 2 games, but what the problem was 13 and 15 point quarters. And that was consistent throughout the whole series. So that's why I say a Fournier and a Kemba could have won us that series, even with those bad performances, because either one of those guys is capable of putting up 15 points in a quarter by themselves. So, right. So as far as a X factor, now granted, they would have to be on the A game, the 2 of them. And obviously, I wouldn't want to rely on them to win a series, but I think it's very possible that we could have won a series.
But you got to look at this, Tony.
That one.
They would have adjusted. The defense would have, everything wouldn't have remained the same, right? So it's not like everything remained the same. Now we're going to take these 2 players, put them over there. Yes, we would have won. We would have had them 5 in the series playing a certain way, and then 2 of them don't show up. The defense is going to adjust to those other 3, right?
They didn't have to make an adjustment, though. That's the 2 of them didn't show up all series. Like, we agree with that. You know what I mean? So I'm saying the problem with those 2 not showing up was our point guard play, who we couldn't get anything from, right? At least the first 3 games, and then Bullock, very limited in his offense. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying the addition of those 2 guys, you know, Fournier can put the ball on the floor. You're not going to put a Trae Young on a Fournier to mitigate Trae Young's lack of defense. And you know, Kemba's going to get you 19 a game minimum. Go ahead, Josh.
I think the, you know, that plug and play thing, I think the situation is a little bit more nuanced than that. It's not as simple as just plugging and playing and plugging these 2 guys in and saying that they made a difference. Like Steph said, I think that there were adjustments, you know, had to be made. I think the coaching of Nate McMillan definitely was huge in that series, because he was able to adjust at anything the Knicks were throwing at him. I also think the fact that the Knicks really don't have that many possessions per game. They play at a slow pace. So, you know, and we're going to talk about, you know, what Thibodeau needs to do, you know, moving forward, things of that nature. But I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I get it that, you know, they're going to make us better, but I don't think those 2 guys, if we had them during the series, that we necessarily would have won. We probably could have won an extra game. You know what I'm saying? But again, in the playoffs, you got to have all your dogs going. If you don't have all your dogs going, you can probably get away with 1 guy not showing up. But to win a series, all your guys and your team has to be going, you know, on the same level. And, you know, it's not that easy. Now, maybe you can say we can get lucky. A team can probably fall asleep, and maybe their 2 guys aren't playing as well. And then, you know, we'll be in a dogfight that way. But just to, you know, say that if 2 guys don't show up, then can the Knicks win a playoff series? I just don't think that's necessarily fair to the other teams.
I mean, I agree somewhat. I'm just saying it's very possible.
We stand a better chance.
Yeah, way better chance.
If 2 people don't show up, we do stand a better chance.
We had no options after they mitigated Randall. We had no options. Even him passing the ball out. If the guys he's passing to ain't hitting, It
Right,
makes
but
it
you're
look even
talking
worse.
specifically about adding these two people to the Atlanta series. I'm talking about going forward.
Okay.
In our playoff series, we're going to be playing a certain way for the entire season, and then in the playoffs, two players don't show up. Right, it kind of changes your flow and what you usually, and what you do. So I think we have a better chance of guys showing up, but for an entire series, like I could see for a game, but for an entire series, two guys in your startup don't show up. I think that's a lot to overcome.
I agree, and I don't think we could. Like, he can't have another, Randall specifically can't have another series like that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? He cannot. Like, that was historically bad.
Devon, you were going to say something?
No, I was wondering, did have it ever happened in the NBA and in history that you guys remember that two cats went down on a major team and still was, had it ever happened before? I guess you can recall in the series.
Brooklyn almost did it last season against Milwaukee, and they lost their guys through the injury. And Harden played a little bit, but he didn't. He wasn't.
And the reason why I say that, I kind of, it all depends what the other team bring, because I think Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, if they on there, I think they could have made a. I mean, they still. I think they could win the game or two because of the Knicks' defense. First of all,
right? Exactly.
I think our defense will keep that score low enough with them two cats and everybody else got to pop too. I think that's what's so interesting to me, man. Like, Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker, if they healthy, the Knicks got two good players.
Oh, no doubt about it.
So I think it would be interesting. I would be interested to see that in the series, though, if they go down. We don't want it, but I would love to see that. I think they can. I think Kemba Walker got enough in him, Evan Fournier, to get us maybe to compete for a series, to win one. I agree with Josh. You got to have your horses, man, because it changes the game up. The defensive schemes change. The coaching changes. It's just and the other guys now they're going to be under pressure because they got to step up and they might not be ready for it. I don't know, but I interesting that I have that. I wouldn't want that to limit in New York though.
Right, exactly.
Shout out to Shy Powers. This year, even if two players on the starters are off, we still got the bench. No doubt about it. I think for a game or something, I think we're going to be really good, and I like that about us. We're really deep.
And just one more point. I also believe we could have benched Peyton and just not started Rose, and I think that would have gave us another win. And just one, but
kept everything the way it was. Just had somebody else hold that spot instead of Peyton.
I agree.
No, yeah. All right, let's move on to Tibbs. Thibodeau, obviously, as we all know, was the coach of the year last year. I know a lot of people say he had the same roster, but I think he had a little better roster than Thibodeau. But I think just the way he came in, put that structure in place, put that accountability in place, guys knew exactly what they needed to do, when they needed to do it. I think he also he had the players in the right spots playing to their strengths. So like we talked earlier about Kevin Knox shooting in the corner. If you ask me, Tibbs was watching video and probably seeing where each guy's shots should come from. And the Knicks were very efficient shooting their three-pointers. And I think that was Tibbs. I think that was Tibbs saying, this is where you shoot best. This is where you need to take your shot. Right. And I think that his structure, his offense, that really helped us in a lot of ways. And we could talk about Randall and the season he had, but Tibbs had a lot to do with the success that we had last year as well. So I'm not taking anything from him. That being said, do you think Tibbs needs to change, or would you like to see Tibbs change anything coming into this season? Or do you think that he doesn't really need to change anything? We've upgraded the roster and we could just do the same thing we did last year and we'll be fine. What's your thoughts on Tibbs, and any thoughts about if he needs to change anything, or if you would just like him to change something next season? Devon, let's start with Devon.
Okay, I know Uncle Fulio ain't spoken a while. You welcome to have my brother.
I'll go. Yeah. So for me, all offensively, right? I remember a lot of times last season the Knicks would get out on a break, and then the point guard would take the ball, we'll get across half court, we think we're about to go in for a layup or get a good odd man opportunity, and then the point guard is dribble it right back out. So for me, I want to see the Knicks do a little bit more running on the fast break. We were last in the NBA in fast break points the last season, and the year before that we were second to last, 29th in the NBA in fast break points. So I think getting fast break points lead to getting more possessions. Getting more possessions lead to getting to the free throw line a little bit more. And I think that can help us put more points on the board than anything. We have good efficiency. We just got to be able to throw up some more shots. Get to the line a little bit more. We got guys who can get to the hole, and Kemba and Derrick Rose and RJ Barrett. Even if RJ Barrett is going to take that next step, he has to be a threat to get to the line and actually get to knock down some shots. So fast break points, getting out on the break. We got Obi Toppin. Let's be able to use him a little bit more in the fast break. RJ Barrett, I still think, can thrive in the fast break. He did that at Duke. And I just want to see that the Knicks run a little bit more, get some points and bunches, not just set them for threes all the time and things of that nature. So for me, it's fast break points and getting out on the run.
Do you think Tibbs restricted that though, or do you think that was the roster that restricted that?
I think it was a little bit of both, but I think what Tibbs can do, because it seems to me Tibbs is always standing up. I've never seen him sit down ever. He's always standing up and he's always yelling out to the point guard, back it out, and he's always trying to get a play going in a half court set. So I think a little bit is on him. Elfrid Payton, at times when I watch Elfrid Payton play, Elfrid Payton wasn't shy about going to the hole. He wasn't shy about that. He actually was pretty decent at getting to the hole. That was one thing that he was doing well last season that a lot of people didn't give him credit for. So I think there's a little bit of both. But this season with Kemba Walker there, Derrick Rose coming back, having Obi Toppin coming into his second season, and having Evan Fournier out there, who's pretty much a shooter, we can be able to run a little bit more and get some more points and get to the line a little bit better.
I agree. I think. Go ahead, Tony.
I agree that we do need to get more fast break points, but I don't think that was Tibbs per se, because he mentioned it, throughout the season. He knew where we stood as far as fast break points, where we stood statistically against the rest of the league. So it had to have been a point of emphasis. Otherwise, he wouldn't have keep mentioning it. You're not going to mention, we need more fast break points, we need more easy opportunities, if you're not game planning for that. That being said, I like what Tibbs done. I'm gonna say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think the addition of some better offensive players, guys with more skill sets, more variety in their game, I think that's gonna automatically open up Tibbs' offense. So that's my stance on it as a whole. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But it is broke.
And I don't think it's any coincidence that even Tibbs and his teams in Chicago and Minnesota were last in the NBA in fast break points. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's the way he coaches. He's a half court coach. He wants to slow it down, end of the shot clock, that type of thing. So I do think a lot of it is on him. And we'll see if it changes. If it doesn't, I'll probably be fine with it. The Knicks are going to score a little bit more points, but I want to see the team get some more possessions, because I think more possessions with the amount of firepower that we have on offense to be able to spread the ball around and get other guys involved. I think running a little bit of a faster tempo gets everyone else involved a little bit better.
How can it be broke if he won Coach of the Year though?
But in the playoffs though. So yeah. What I'm saying is, so basically you're saying keep the same offense, we have better players. So that means Randall is going to be dominating the ball in the post. He's just going to have better players to pass it to. I mean, I'm not sure if that maximizes the new players that we have. Yes, when Randall passes them the ball, if they're able to put it on the floor, it's not just shoot a three like with Bullock, right? They'll be able to dribble in a few steps, pull up for a mid-range, or dribble all the way, and lay it up. So I guess, yes, individually, they can do a little more when Randall passes it to them. But it's still, if we keep it the same, we're still initiating the offense through Randall pretty much, I don't know what the percentages were, but it was a high percentage. I would like to see, and I'm interested in what the rest of you have to say, a more dynamic offense where anybody can initiate the offense, not just Randall. Maybe RJ can initiate it, Fournier can initiate it, Kemba can initiate it. It's not always Randall initiating the offense and basically playing the point guard for us.
But I think that comes automatically with the addition of guys that can do that. You know what I mean? Bullock wasn't initiating anything. You know what I mean? Like his skill set on offense was very limited. Catch and shoot. You didn't want him on a fast break. You didn't want him ending the fast break. You know what I mean? There was a lot of things that he was limited in what he could do. He had opportunities, fast break opportunities. It was scary. You know, it was like, what's he going to do? You're not going to be worried about those same opportunities given to the two new additions. You're not going to be worried about Randall passing out to a wide open Kemba Walker if he's wide open. You know what I mean? Because you can't really double off of a Walker. You can't really double off of a Fournier. So I think automatically the offense will expand with guys who have more variety to their game. I mean, and I'm not saying because obviously I want Kemba initiating more offense. I think that's a skill set that he has. You got to utilize it. Right. Same thing with Fournier, but I don't think we had those options last year.
So basically, we're saying the same thing because in order for that to happen, we have to have different sets. We're going to have different sets. So it's not going to be the same offense because Randall is going to initiate it on the left side of the floor out of the post. I mean, that's basically, where it started. So if Kemba is initiating from the top of the key, if Fournier is initiating from the right side, then basically we have different offensive sets. And that's basically what I'm saying, having different offensive sets other than Randall getting into that left corner box, the left box, and initiating the offense from there.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's organic. Think about it. If Bullock caught a rebound, what's the first thing he's gonna do?
Pass it.
that right there tells you a lot. He's so limited. Like he would never catch a rebound and bring it up the court, and or even look all the way up the court to see if there was an option. You know what I mean? A Fournier is gonna do that automatically. It don't even got anything to do with Tibbs. I think that's just, it's in his game, it's in his skill set. He's gonna do that. You know what I mean? So I think things like that is gonna happen.
I don't know. Tibbs is very strong and structured. He's very strong and structured. Everybody, when you get the rebound, this is where I need it, to go. I don't know. We'll see. But go ahead, Devon. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, talent makes a difference. You know what I mean? To me. No matter what sport we play, the more talent you got, the easier it is to play. You know what I mean? And I just think that having Fournier and Walker changed that. Randall, he is the go-to guy. I don't think like for 48 minutes we throwing the ball to Randall. But Randall is that dude. He's the best dude on that team last year. He got to get the ball, majority of the time. You know what I mean? But now I think you could eat that a little bit more with the better offense we got now with Fournier and Kemba Walker. But I do think that ball starts with Julius Randle. It ends up where it's going to end it on that perimeter. I think that's the way the Knicks should play. Because Julius Randle playing on the perimeter a lot anyway nowadays. He don't be down in that post that much anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's gonna start shooting threes, and that's why I think the option gonna be different alone because of him shooting threes. And I just think with him, Fournier, Kemba Walker, and RJ Barrett on the that's deadly. You cannot double nobody on that team alone. If these cats shooting 40%, so that was another team in the NBA. We'd be like, yo, that is crazy. But I think if them cats can really do that, I think Julius Randle got that space open now. You can't double team him no more. Like, who you gonna lag off of Kemba Walker? He ain't no Alpha Payton. You know what I'm saying? If you lag off of Julius Randle this year, he got three guys literally on that perimeter that can knock that ball down. So I don't think we're gonna get a lot of zones this year. I think Kemba Walker and my man changed that zone crap. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be interesting. I think Julius Randle, he's a horse to me. I mean, he's the major player. You know what I mean? And he do what he did last year, 24-11. I'll take that with these two cats they brought in. So I think it's gonna be interesting, man. I think Tibbs gonna coach the way he's been coaching, and I do agree, like the fast break. I think that with them guys they got now, I think it's easy to run now. I really do. I think Kemba Walker could push that ball. RJ, he can get on the fast break. Fournier can get down there. Randall's a runner, and Mitchell Robinson like a gazillion. This cat is all over the place. So I think Tibbs got options this year. I think he got a lot of options now, but he used them. I don't know, but.
But what is he going to do? I mean, I think that's the question. What would you like to see Tibbs do?
Right. Yeah.
Differently, if anything.
To me, I just want him to encourage the fast break a little bit more. And like have these guys with their talent, like you guys said, we got some more talent on offense, but let's see these guys get to the line and impose their will on the defense. That creates more possessions. More possessions create more free throws. More free throws create more points. The Knicks were last in the NBA in points last season. I need to see that go up to about 111, 112, around there, like league average, something like that. And I think that within itself makes the Knicks a much better thing. So it's a little bit more layered. It's not just going to be adding these players. We got to see how it all comes together. But for me, that's the point of emphasis on offense that I think the Knicks should be able to do to get more points.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I'm okay with Tibbs staying with a 10-man rotation. I know some people want 11, 12. I just think that's just too much. I just think guys got to know every night where their shots is going to come from, where their time is going to come from. And if someone is injured or if someone is not playing well, then I get it. Maybe they don't play the second half. Maybe you play somebody in the other 9 a little more. Maybe you bring in a situational player and see what they can do. But for the most part, I'm okay with a 10-man rotation. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
it ain't broke.
right.
But Tony, you keep saying that in the playoffs, our offense was broke, and I think you could say it was broke because and that is part of it. When Randall passed it to these guys, they couldn't hit shots. So that was definitely part of it. But I think the other part of it was that our offense was very simplistic. It was a very basic offense. And I think that it needs to be a little more nuanced with the players, with the players we have. They made one adjustment and it shut down everything.
You're right. I mean, I guess only for me personally, only time will tell.
Right.
Because I'm focusing on the additions and the subtractions and what I envision the change, would change. If nothing changed systematically, what those two additions versus the subtraction,
it's gonna help, no doubt about it.
Would change. But we're gonna have to see what Tibbs does. If Tibbs can manage to restrict these guys, knowing what they can do offensively, that's not good. That would be a shock to me that somehow he's restricting them from or limiting them with fast breaks, knowing that these are their strengths. These are things that they bring to the table, at least in my mind, just being on the roster. I look at Kemba and I'm like, any minutes he gets with Obi, I'm looking forward to that. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's going to work wonders for him. Similar to what Rose does, maybe even better.
Yeah. Okay. They got a good problem. And I really believe that. I think the Knicks got a good problem, and I really think that the piggyback off what Tone said, even in the playoffs, it was really what it was about. The Cats were shooting jump shots. That it was all jump shot, and once DeAndre Hunter and them stopped them jump shots, and they stopped Randall and RJ from hitting, and then everybody went cold. That's why I'm happy about this year team, because they got 4 cats that's on the perimeter that can put the ball on the floor and go to the bucket. Last year we were stagnant. We couldn't. Reggie Bullock wasn't doing it, and Elvis Payton wasn't there. So we didn't have that. Now we got 4 cats who can literally put the ball on the floor and go straight to the hole. And I think that's going to be a problem more than less for a lot of teams, believe it or not, because that's pretty good right there, man, for sure.
I just want to add to that. I think it is a good problem to have, but I'm not looking at it from a perspective of we were with the deepest team in the NBA. I think it's a good problem to have because of like kind of damage control, if that term makes sense. So if there is injuries, we got capable guys who can come in there and fill in. I think the only problem though is at that point guard position, because we still don't know if Kemba Walker goes down. I think that changes everything. We have to, start thinking about how we're going to be able to run the offense. Who's going to be our starting point guard? Can Derrick Rose do it? Is Miles McBride going to get a lot of time? Is it going to be Alec Burks again like last season? So I think it's a good problem to have for all the rest of the positions with the exception of point guard, because that one we still got to be able to figure out who we're going to plug into that point guard spot.
Can I ask you guys hypothetically, if Kemba was to go down, and I'd rather get all of you guys' response. Mm-hmm. Do you start Rose or do you put somebody else in that starting lineup, and see how it goes? And obviously, it's probably based off hindsight, your response, but it doesn't have to be.
At this point right now, looking at it, I think I would start Rose in the beginning of the season, just to give the kids a little bit more time on the bench. I think the bench can be fine with Alec Burks there and with Emmanuel quickly there, and hopefully Kevin Knox can be able to come out of his shell and knock some shots down. And I want to see a little bit more Miles McBride and Grimes in that second unit as well. So I would start Rose. Just because there's nobody else to really man that starting point guard position that I would want out there to man that starting point guard position, to be honest.
I would, if I had to, and I wouldn't, I don't think it'd kill. I would just slide quickly over there and move Alex Burks up or somebody up to the two guard spot, behind back in the two, whether McBride somebody. But I think quickly is intelligent enough for the basketball. He won't be Kemba Walker, but one thing he still can do, he can get you some points. On the NBA level, what I mean? So, you might not get you 19, but if quickly coming at the start and then get you 13 and 4 or 5 assists, I think that to me, and you can move one of them young boys to the backup 2 now, because they, like Grimes, and then keep them from being a little bit comfortable, had to try to start in the yard. So I think you could slide quickly right over there. He played in the NBA last year. He know the game. And I think for the Knicks, I think he'd be more suitable for me. The only other person you can see is Derrick Rose and Alex Burks sometime. McBride, I don't know if he's ready for this. I know he had a great summer league. But this ain't summer league though. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know how he will come out the gate, I'm saying. But that's why I think if you put him in the second unit, he might be comfortable. And I would try to slide quickly. I think that's the only option we got, really, to be honest with you. So, well,
if Kemba went down, that's what you're asking. If Kemba was to go down, if he can, I think I would move Derrick Rose up. I would still keep his minutes the same. Like I wouldn't play him more minutes, but I think I would bring Derrick Rose up, and I think I would feel comfortable with quickly at the point with the second unit. I don't think listen, if Kemba goes down, this is not ideal, right?
Right, exactly.
Ideal. Yeah. It's not ideal.
Let me ask you a question. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure I don't lose sight of what you're saying. But let me ask you a question. Do you think a rookie point guard can come in there and manage the Knicks second unit from a veteran? No. If you bringing them McBride, that's what scared me about bringing Derrick Rose to the start lineup, because I think that experience is what's keeping that whole thing in.
But you don't think Quick would do okay as the backup?
Oh, I'm backup point guard.
Right. I'm saying if I move Derrick Rose up,
absolutely, I see that. Right. The second. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I would make IQ now the point guard of the second unit, and then we would have to bring somebody else up to play his off guard position.
That make more sense. To be honest, absolutely, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know about McBride either. I like what I saw in summer league, but it's a different game in the regular season. But this is where I do think McBride may get minutes. If our point guard and wings, and they have the stats and the advanced stats, are getting beat terribly and creating a lot of problems for us defensively, and the defense is terrible up there in the backcourt, I could see Tibbs maybe running him through for 10, 15 minutes a game. And I think the spot that he would take may be IQ's spot. because we have a lot of offense. We got enough offense. If Tibbs feels like our defense is just terrible, that's where the only way I could see McBride. And remember, Quickly came in and got 15 or something, 20, I'm not sure what it was, minutes a game because we needed that shooting, right? And Tibbs saw that and gave him the minutes. So the same thing can happen on the defensive end if Tibbs feel like we getting, this is terrible. We getting killed on the defensive end. Maybe he would be able to get minutes that way.
I think he goes to Knox before he goes to either one of our rookies, at least with a fair shot. You know what I mean? Like, I think that pecking order is in stone. And just the only pushback I have on the McBride thing is, I mean, he really didn't give Frank that chance. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of opportunities where he could have gave Frank that opportunity, a guy who had more experience and was known as a defender at the very least, maybe not a stopper, but a defender. So I would be shocked if he gave McBride the minutes, you know what I mean, especially before Knox is in the rotation.
But Knox is not a great defensive player. I'm talking about.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying like rotation wise. You know what I mean? I could see. I think we deal with it before we see McBride, and I don't. Even if we need the defense at the guard position, I don't see McBride jumping Knox in the rotation. You know what I mean? Like.
But they play different positions, though.
I know, but
it's like balance Burks over to the 2.
But that's what I mean. We got Burks, we got Quickly, we got
Burks over to the 2 and get Knox a tall, small forward, and then, you never know.
But you think that helps our defense, though?
Burks,
like yeah.
I mean, and you know what?
He's not a bad defender,
right?
He's not a bad defender at all.
I mean, all of these are just hypothetical situations.
Right,
I mean,
right, yeah.
We're gonna sacrifice here and there if we lose these players. That's why it's imperative that Kemba Walker stays healthy, because it's just the big can of worms we just opened up, and we don't know which way the Knicks are gonna go with it. That's why with him, it's kind of crazy. Like, he is like the.
You think Kemba's health is more important than Rose's?
Yeah,
absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely. He's the starting point guard.
I mean, we don't know that yet.
True.
And the good thing they got the flexibility to make a move if we do go down. They could wheel and deal. Wheel and deal.
They can. All right. Let's move on to roster construction, because we got 3 teams. I mean, this could be quick, though. I was looking at these rosters. So, basically, we've been looking at the Eastern Conference based on the standings last year, and we started with the 5th and 6th seed, which was Miami and Atlanta, and then we moved on down. But I thought that instead of going to those that didn't make the playoffs, that I would spend this show talking about the top 3, and that would be the Milwaukee Bucks in no particular order in terms of their finish, Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets, and just talk about whether or not we think the Knicks have gained any ground on these 3 teams. And the Knicks made some upgrades, but as I was putting the rosters together of these 3 teams, they made upgrades. Nobody stood still. They made some upgrades as well. So Philadelphia finished first, right? You would think that, the way they left the playoffs, losing to Atlanta, they was actually the number 1 seed. They had the best record in the Eastern Conference last year in the regular season. So let's take a look at their roster. We don't know what's going to happen with Ben Simmons, but for right now, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid. The bench: Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, I think Forcat, I hope I said that right, Korkmaz, and they picked up Andre Drummond. I think the power forward, I'm not sure what they're gonna do there. And then situational. I mean, the rich get rich. I mean, they are championship contenders, and they drafted Jaden Springer, Aaron Henry, and Charles Bassey. I mean, wow. Obviously, Milton and Isaiah Joe, who I believe was the rookie of the year before. They lost to Dwight Howard, but they added Andre Drummond, who I think is a great backup for them if Embiid has to miss any games. You know, the first question is, what do you guys think about their roster before we get into comparison? Just what do you think of their roster overall?
I don't see a upgrade, to be honest. I don't know if I would consider Drummond an upgrade over Dwight Howard in particular. And I think they're pretty much in the same position. Now, of course, that could change. We don't know what's going to happen with Ben, but as of right now, I think they have more pressure on them, and they have the same, you know what I mean, the same roster, if not maybe a little less as talented.
For me, I think the 76ers are dangerous. You can't sleep on them. They're absolutely dangerous. We don't know what's going to happen with Ben Simmons. You know, whatever trade that they decide to do, or even if they decide to keep him, Philadelphia is nothing to play with. That team can play some defense. I'm looking at on the bench, Matisse Thybulle, great defender. Danny Green, a really good defender. Joel Embiid, we already know what he can do. I think what they lose in Dwight Howard as far as defense, they get in Andre Drummond offensively. Andre Drummond's a much better player at this point in his career than Dwight Howard. And Shake Milton is underrated, completely underrated. I think he is going to get a lot of major time in their rotation. So Philadelphia, you can't sleep on them. Depending on what happens with Ben Simmons or not, if they bring in someone else, I think that would be a major loss to them. So I'm going to say if they lose Ben Simmons, I think they fall in the standings a little bit. But again, you just can't sleep on this team.
Do you think they get top seed in the East this year?
It depends on what happens with Ben Simmons. I think that's a major part of it.
No, the roster as is. You think they get number one again in the East?
No. Top three, but not number one.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the top three. I mean, if my man said healthy, then it's Joel Embiid. It's a wrap. I think if Joel Embiid healthy, they be a three. That's what I'm saying. I just think that ain't nobody in the East can deal with that boy. So, I mean, I do think continuity is important. Just like the New York Knicks, they brought back a lot of their players. Continuity is important. They know how each other get down. So I think that makes it more easier for them this year. That team been together. They know each other's tendencies, their weaknesses. They know where they move. They like their spots. So I think as long as they got Joel Embiid there, and I think they'd be in the top three. I really do. I think that having Doc Rivers there and with the guys who already know how to play together, just important. I just think that they won't lose a lot of games because of continuity, like the Knicks. That's why I think they're good. So I take them top three for sure. I think Joel Embiid is the problem. So I take three.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we're not talking about the playoffs. We're talking about the regular season, and Ben Simmons, because in the playoffs you can counter, you can game plan. You seeing a team over and over and over. And I think, during the regular season, Ben Simmons was a monster. It was just when they got to the playoffs and he didn't shoot, and that created problems for Philly. So now the other team, you don't even have to worry about Ben. We can focus on the others, right? So it created problems for them. But in the regular season, it wasn't much of a problem. Do you think we gained any ground? So when we played Philly last year, we played them close. The games that we played them was very close. Embiid didn't play in one or two of those games, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think we've gained any ground on them? Go ahead, Josh.
So Steph, the first game wasn't close. Joel Embiid was playing, and the game wasn't close. Mitchell Robinson got absolutely destroyed. Him and Nerlens got destroyed by Joel Embiid, which you expect to happen. It's Joel Embiid. I think the second game was the game I think that we played in Philly. That was in Philly. Joel Embiid was not there. And that game was much closer. It came down to the wire, a few plays here and there. And in the third game, I don't think Joel Embiid played that game either. And that was the game Danny Green hit the shot. Julius Randle hit the shot at the buzzer. Danny Green hit the shot in overtime, and they barely squeaked by. So with Joel Embiid, I think we're no match for this team. Without him, I think we can compete with this team. But with Joel Embiid, I think there's no answer for him.
Okay, so
I concur. I agree. And one of our weaknesses we pointed out on my show was the girth, like Sim said, and they added Drummond. A guy that I wanted last year because of his girth, and so I don't think we have an answer if they're healthy. And I'll be honest, to Harris, X Factor. If this guy could put it together, they're even more dangerous. He's been lucky enough to remain under the radar, not really get any criticism. You know what I mean? He got two guys above him. So if he could put it together, I think that there's still a scary team.
Yeah, I think Tobias Harris, though, played very well for them last year. I mean, you can argue that behind Embiid, he was their second best player. I mean, Simmons did play well, but I think Tobias Harris played better than Simmons last season. But yes.
I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
With the starting five, real quick. Ben Simmons, Kemba Walker. How much of a advantage? Where do you think who got the edge of that point guard thing? If let's say it's Kemba Walker, and this hypothetically, who you giving the point guard spot to?
Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons because of his, okay. So
because of his. I mean, Kemba may score more. May end up with more points, but in my opinion, Ben Simmons is an elite defender.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with that. So you taking Ben Simmons over? Do you take Steph Curry over Evan Fournier?
That's a tough one. Yeah.
Can I just add something real quick? So I think the lineup, the starting lineup, it looks a little bit kind of skewed a little bit because Philadelphia didn't have Ben Simmons as the primary point guard last year. They had Seth Curry there. Then they had Danny Green at the 2, Ben Simmons at the 3, Tobias Harris at the 4, Joel Embiid at the 5. So Ben Simmons wasn't their point guard. We just know of Ben Simmons as a point guard because that's how he got drafted. They were using him primarily at the wing.
At the wing, okay. So then we reverse that. Then so do you say Steph Curry? Do you give Steph Curry over the edge over Kemba Walker? I won't. I know that for a fact.
It depends on which Kemba Walker we're talking about. If we're talking about solid Kemba Walker, no. I would pick Kemba.
Yeah, last year's Kemba Walker, 19 points a game, 43 games. Last year's Kemba Walker. I mean, we ain't even got to go back that far. We can go back last year. 19 points a game on 43 games. I take that over Steph Curry all day, every day, any day.
I don't think it's a big. Steph Curry played very well.
Steph Curry is a one-dimensional player. He's just a jump shooter. He's just a three-point shooter. Kemba Walker is a four-time All-Star, All-NBA, third team. Let's not get it twisted. Right. You taking Steph Curry over Kemba Walker?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said I would take Kemba Walker, but I would say
slightly.
Yeah.
But I would say
I didn't say you. I don't want you. I hate that because I respect you so much. I don't want you to think I'm piggybacking like you said. So I don't want to. I don't do that because you're the queen. You know, I'm trying to.
No, it's cool. You can disagree. Okay. We can disagree. It's totally fine. I think Kemba.
That's what I guess I was trying to say. I didn't mean to be a disagree moment on you, but I guess what I was trying to say is, but on the real, would you take Steph Curry? I don't think I would do that, and for the reason the respect that Kemba Walker is, he's a four-time All-Star, All-NBA. Steph Curry ain't never sniffed that. So I think I think we underestimate in that position who Kemba Walker is. That cat is.
I think we might be overestimating who, because we don't really know who he is. We're talking about who he is historically. I'm hoping he's that guy when he comes in. But even if he's not, even if he's the Kemba in Boston, yes, I would definitely give him the edge in that matchup. No, he would win that matchup more than an edge. He would win that. He would win that matchup.
Man by man, just to kind of figure out what their team is or what ours is. That's why I was trying to bring that up.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea, and we could go through individually, but then at the end, we still got to keep in mind that it's who they are collectively, as well. And so, you're saying Danny Green would match up with who, Fournier or RJ?
I think Nett's going to run Fournier at the 2. I think RJ probably. I think he's gonna move into the 3. I think it makes sense. But I like then and there. Danny Green is an NBA good all defender, one of the best 3-point shooters. But Evan Fournier is Evan Fournier. You know what I mean?
No, I would pick Fournier over Green.
Right. And I guess,
look at it this way: if you're the Sixers, who you putting Ben Simmons on, Fournier or RJ?
I think Ben Simmons plays at 3.
Probably Fournier. But the thing is, Philly got so many defenders, it really won't even matter. They got really good individual defenders that they can plug and play anywhere. You know
that roster looks pretty thin right now.
Because Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle, Matisse Thybulle for sure is a very good defensive player. Tobias Harris and Randall, I think that would be a wash. I think people underestimated Harris last year. He had a really, really good season. So I think that would be even, and Joel Embiid would win his matchup. And I think whoever Ben Simmons is guarding is going to have a tough night.
Okay.
Whether it's Fournier or whether it's RJ, this guy is an elite defender. Elite.
That's the benefit of having someone like that in your starting lineup. You can be able to, and that's why I like Reggie Bullock so much from last season, because he was able to switch off and guard multiple positions. Ben Simmons can guard 4 positions. 4.
Did you say that's the benefit for trading for Ben Simmons?
I didn't say it.
Yeah, let me know. I mean, it's interesting. I like the Knicks champion because I think our bench is stronger than it. I think our bench is better than that. I really do. I think with the experience of Derrick Rose, I'll take Derrick Rose over anybody in that backcourt right there. Alex Burks can do what the cats can do, and it all depends. And I think Emmanuel quickly can shoot just like Tyrese Maxey and Thybulle. And I think Alex Burks is the X factor. Don't sleep
on Shake Milton. Shake Milton is
right. Well, you know, Shake get buckets. Shake get buckets. He get buckets. He nice. I like the Knicks at the compete.
Okay. So does that mean now that we, in the beginning of the when we started this, we said that they would finish in the top 3, maybe not the first seed like they got last year, but they would finish in the top 3. Are you saying now, as we go through it line by line, player by player, that you think the Knicks could get that 3rd seed and move Philly down to 4th, or are we not going that far because of Embiid?
I don't think it's going to be the Knicks. I think it's going to be Miami. Personally, I think Miami is a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. I don't think it'll be the Knicks. But again, it all depends on what happens with Ben Simmons. If Philly gets back a lackluster package for Ben Simmons, I think that moves him down a little bit just naturally, because you lose that defender in Ben Simmons. You probably replace him in a lineup with Thybulle, but you're not going to get much offensively with him. So it really just depends on who Philly gets back. But I think naturally, if they lose Ben Simmons and don't get anybody back, I think they're going to go down naturally. But I think Miami is the team that does it, because Miami is better than Philadelphia, in my opinion.
Wow. And in my opinion, if everybody stays healthy, we're better than Miami. Maybe not that starting lineup. That starting lineup is tough. But when you compare our bench to Miami's bench, it's not even close. Unless Miami is going to go with just an 8-man rotation and keep them starters in that second unit. And that Riley Tree, you know, they do things like that. But Josh, you missed that show when we did the Miami. I agree with you that their first 5 is suffocating on Miami. But after that, whatever we don't do in the starting lineup, we're going to make up for it with our bench.
They got a small team, too.
If we get the 3rd seed over them, they may still, I predict they're going to beat us. You know, any game that Joel is there, we're going to lose. But if we ain't making it. I mean, but we could get
Tony.
We could get the 3rd seed, and and they still beat us in the, you know what I mean, in the head-to-head games.
Right.
So I'll
do
say
you
that.
think we closed ground on the Philadelphia 76ers with our additions?
Oh, yes.
I think we did, but not head-to-head, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think if we're going to get into the top 3, it's going to be because we skip Philly, or the Nets just had disastrous injuries. But I'm talking about, I don't want to say other people, other teams are going to get injured and the Knicks won't. I mean, we got injury concerns too. So I'm just saying, if everybody is healthy on every team throughout the Eastern Conference, if everybody is healthy,
you know,
and I think in order for us to jump Philly, I see Philly in the 3rd seed. In order for us to jump Philly, like we talked about the X factor, one of those X factors is going to have to really pop and really have a great season in order for us to move into the top 3. If we just play, if nobody pops, everybody just playing the way they have been playing, I don't know. I think one of those players is going to really have to pop in order for us to jump into the top 3.
I tell you what, after last year, debacle, the pressure's on Doc Rivers.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
he got the pressure on him. All this turmoil going through there, and sometimes that mental it'll run amok. You know what I mean? The next thing you know, they ain't even playing on the A game. And I think the addition of Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier added 14 to 17 points more in the starting lineup on every given night. Not one night, this night off. No, every single night, Kemba can give you this and Fournier, that's what he do. He give you 17 his whole career. I think it's night and day. I think people underestimate the spacing that they got on the Knicks right now. It's like lanes all open, man. It's like crazy because all them cats I think it's a different Knicks team. I think bringing Fournier in at that 3 spot was huge because he's not a slouch defender. He's not Reggie Miller. He's not Reggie Bullock. He's not a slouch. You know what I mean? So I think having a cat at the 3 who could do what he could do, put that ball on the floor, go to the rim, throw it on you, pull up with the mid-range, it just changes the whole dynamic. And them teams got to play defense against us too. And we got a good defense team. So I think, what you seen last year with the Knicks at 41 and 31, that mediocre team, and you bring in 2 more dudes who can literally get buckets, I just think it's a whole different scenario. I really do. I think they're good.
It is. But I don't think we're as good defensively, though. I don't think we drop out at the top. I don't think we. I'm hoping we don't. I'm hoping we're still top 10. I believe we will be.
I think individually we might not be. Individual defender wise we might not be, but team wise, we just don't know. You know what I mean? I know Ben Simmons can get it, Danny Green can get it, and Joel Embiid can get it. But I think team-wise, I think Maxey and Thibodeau, he's just on another planet when it comes to defense. That's but I think, like I said, individually they got it, man. They got some good defenders. But like I said, Knicks play team defense. That's why we were what we were last year with the team defense thing. You know what I mean? I just think that Tibbs got that. And I think having to come back on that defense team last year that played the way they played without him, I think it's different. I just think it's different. Sure.
I want to Sherwin M. Shout out to you. He said, we are not better. Listen to this now. We are not better than a healthy Indiana, Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, Brooklyn, 76ers, Milwaukee. I don't know about that, Sherman. And for everybody who say that I'm negative when it comes to the Knicks, I picked the Knicks to finish at least 4th. And I picked the Knicks to finish above Miami based on our bench, not necessarily the starting lineup. That starting lineup is just it's definitely gonna create problems. All right. So yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Well, real quick, I just want to say, Philadelphia has been one of the top seeds in the Eastern Conference the last 4 years, right? And I think during the regular season, I think the bench doesn't matter as much as it does in the playoffs. So with all of that, I think the starting lineups matter a lot more. Guys are going to get bought in. The 10-man rotations are going to happen naturally, what have you. But I think the starting lineup matters more than the bench during the regular season. Come playoff time, I think it's a little bit different. That's when like I said, everything becomes a little bit more amplified. But during the regular season, the starting lineup is what matters. And I'm looking at Philly's starting lineup right now, Miami's starting lineup right now, and a lot of these teams, and I just think we're at a little bit of a disadvantage. A little bit, not by a lot, but just a little bit.
Yeah, I think the bench matters though in the in the regular season, because that's where you can gain ground when those guys go out. But it remains to be seen. So basically, we're saying we think the Knicks have gained ground on the Philadelphia 76ers as far as our roster is concerned, but we don't think that we're going to overtake them. That they're still going to finish in the top 3.
Yeah, granted, Embiid's there.
Right. That's me.
Granted, Embiid's healthy. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And I like the roster staying up during the whole time that we talk, because I forget sometimes.
You can see it.
I feel like I'm the only one.
and I think that Drummond is an underrated signing for them. You have Embiid go down, and Drummond is going to come in, and he's still a really good rebounder. Even if he's not a shot blocker, I don't see Embiid as a great shot blocker either, unless I'm missing something. So I think he was a better for them than Dwight Howard, actually. Tony.
I just question the fit. You know what I mean? If Drummond comes in the starting unit by necessity because Embiid's hurt, it's gonna be tough, especially if Simmons is still there with those two together. You know what I mean? Together, I think that their limitations hurt them more than what they do well. You mean
spacing, because RJ Drummond is closer to the basket than Embiid.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And doesn't have that option to come out. And then, granted, if Ben is not shooting, you know what I mean, that's a lot of clutter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can almost promise Ben Simmons ain't going to be there. They're going to trade him. So it's just a matter of a win at this point.
Right. Block 53, Drummond looked like trash on the Lakers. Listen, how a player looks have so much to do with, it doesn't necessarily mean the player is not good anymore. Sometimes it has a lot to do with their role, who they're playing with on the team. A lot of times you're like, I don't want that guy. And then he comes to our team, or he goes to another team, and he pops and he plays better because it's a better system. And he's in a different role. I just think RJ Drummond makes them tougher, to me, more so than Dwight Howard did. But we shall see. All right. Should we? Y'all want to say Brooklyn for last? Let's say Brooklyn for last. Yeah, let's say Brooklyn for last. All right, we're gonna pull up the roster for the Milwaukee Bucks, and it's the same question. Do we think the Knicks have gained ground on Milwaukee? Now, Milwaukee won the championship. Some people will argue that they won the championship because the Nets were injured. If the Nets was healthy, they wouldn't have got. I don't think we know. I think people really want to put an asterisk. I don't know what it is about Giannis and Milwaukee. Like, people want to put an asterisk next to them and not really give them much props. But anyway, again, with the starters, the bench, the situational, all of this can change in training camp. This is just one way to look at the roster. So Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, Giannis, Brook Lopez, Jeff Teague. They got Rodney Hood on this team now. He was an addition. Connaughton, Justin Jackson, Simi Ojeleye.
Yep.
I think he played for Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
The year before, a big dude. I think he's a bit undersized, but really strong. And Bobby Portis is back. George Hill is on that team. So their point guard situation is pretty, solid. I don't, in terms of just being able to run the team. Grayson Allen, I think, is new, right? From Memphis, if I want to. And then Giannis and I don't know this. Mamadi Diakite, I'm not familiar with him. But Rodney Hood, Grayson Allen, and Ojale, right, are new, and they lost PJ Tucker, and I think that's a big loss. He was a glue guy. He was a very good defender. I think he played pretty much whoever the best offensive player was at that 3 or 4 position. He would play them. I think that's a tough loss for them. And he went to Miami, right? So just overall, before we get into whether we've gained any ground, what do you think of the roster? I don't think what do you think of the roster?
I think they're tough. I think they're a complete team. And I think they're still just as dangerous as last year, if not more dangerous, just because they have that confidence now that they know they could do it. I do want to point out one thing about them. Because they're coming off this championship, I can see one of two things happening. Mm-hmm. One, they come into this year super focused, trying to repeat, trying to prove everything during the course of the regular season, and maybe that be the detriment to them in the playoffs, not realizing how hard it is to repeat, or the opposite, where they pace themselves throughout the season, which I think is less likely, just because that's something you kind of have to learn. But their best bet, in my opinion, is to pace themselves throughout the season, and then ready to put all their focus into the playoffs. But I think they're gonna come in trying to repeat during the regular season, which ultimately is going to lead to their downfall by the end of the year.
Anybody else?
I think, listen, they're defending champions, so they got to be able to defend what they won last season. I think losing PJ Tucker was a big loss for them, but I think during the regular season, this team is going to find their stride, and they're gonna win 50 games, like they've been doing. They're like Philly; they've been one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference for a while now, led by Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, listen, this team is filled with shooters. They put a lot of shooters around Giannis, so I expect them to still be knocking down threes at a high clip. Giannis is still dominate and be in the MVP conversation like he is every single season. And this team is going to be up there in the Eastern Conference. It's going to be hard to defend them. I think they have a lot of continuity. They only lost PJ Tucker, but for the most part, the rest of the core is intact. I think this team will be fine.
Yeah, I second that. I think the getting back D'Angelo was huge for them. I just think that was huge for them. He didn't even play in the playoffs, and he was the projected starter last year. And if he come back healthy, I think that's a problem. But I do think Drew Holiday at that one at the defense position and Antetokounmpo at the 4 position is crazy. I mean, them cats shut down the best of them. You know what I mean? So I think Drew Holiday just changed that whole thing around. And that's what they was missing. And I mean, his defense is top creme de la creme, for I'm concerned, against. You've seen what he did to Chris Paul, and let me speak for itself. I think him, gymnastics down there at the 4 with that defense down there, and I think Rodney Hood and George Hill, that better than the screamers they brought in. I mean, George Hill been around, he know the game. Rodney Hood get buckets. So I think their team gonna be right where they were. I still got them. I got them in the Nets 1 and 2.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with you, Devon. Drew Holiday just changes everything. I mean, this guy, as far as defense is concerned, crazy. He's an elite defender as well, and if he doesn't shut the guy down that he's guarding, he makes it extremely tough for them. And Giannis is just coming into his own. And when you think about it, the difference, and Josh, don't get mad at me, the difference with him and Ben Simmons, neither one of them, you could argue, are great shooters, But just attempting the shots changes things. Like Giannis, he's not a great shooter, but this year I thought he took more shots. I don't know how much he hit, but he took more threes. He didn't look great. His form didn't look great, but he took more threes. He took more shots. And it opened things up a little. You had to play him a little differently. And they also moved him around also than they did the last time. And I think, with Ben, if he does the same thing, whether he hits those shots or not, if he just takes them, it changes everything. It changes everything. I think the Knicks got better, but I don't think we're going to finish above Milwaukee in the standings unless the Knicks just catch fire and Milwaukee has some injuries.
I totally agree with you. Like I mentioned before, I think the difference between Ben Simmons and Giannis is they built the team around Giannis. You know what I mean? Giannis doesn't have to worry about having another big bruising center in the paint that can take away his opportunities at the rim. I do understand where you're coming from, and I agree that Ben Simmons needs to take those jump shots. No question. If he just takes some of them, he can get to a 25-point per game scorer easily because of everything else that he does offensively, as far as his ability to play make, his ability to get other people open. But that's what Giannis did. You know what I'm saying? Giannis essentially became an MVP player because he started to take those jump shots a little bit more, but can gain more confidence at the free throw line. Even though people were chanting that he, doing the countdown or whatever the case may be, he was able to knock those shots down. So I totally agree with you, and let's see if Milwaukee can be able to keep it together.
And what I will say about Giannis, though, it does say something the way he played in that closeout game, right? He was always a good, if not great player, right? Two-way player. But he shot 17 of 19 from the free throw line in that closeout game. And he's not a very good free throw shooter. So that means he was locked. Yeah, he was locked. And in a closeout game with somebody that is not a great shooter, and he still scored 50 points, right? So I think that just puts him on another level, as a competitor. And again, I think the Knicks have gained. The roster is better, but I still think Milwaukee finishes ahead of us.
They ain't got enough for that young man. A Steph, what he did in the NBA Final was impressive.
Yeah,
he was
legendary.
Oh my goodness, bro! I'm like, come on, this kid's on another level. He don't even got to, like you said, Madden be had a consistent jump shot, dude, to be unstoppable, bro. It's unbelievable. I'm like, man, he don't have a jump shot. He dropping 50 on these cats. I'm like, whoa,
right. And he's a very good defender as well. Is there any matchup in that starting lineup that you think we have an advantage?
Two guard.
Okay.
And maybe at center. Maybe. Like, I and that's actually projecting because, as is, Mitch, no. And as is, no. But I'm hoping Mitch could get to that level where he could dominate a Brook Lopez.
Yeah. I think Brook Lopez is too good. I would say definitely at the two guard. I think I like RJ or whoever we put there, Fournier over DiVincenzo, just based off the experience. But for the most part, the rest of that starting lineup, the Bucks got it. And then if you add continuity in with that, I just think the Bucks have it.
Yeah, they. I definitely think the two, and I think Chris Middleton and Gymnastics is just that's them dudes, you know what I mean? And I think we got our dude, but I think for Brook Lopez, he's a great outside three shooter, but I think you got to underestimate what Mitch's defense will not allow him not to do. I know he might be a better scorer than Mitch, but Mitch's defense will make it hard for that dude. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? I think some of the things he get against a lot of centers because of Mitch's athleticism alone, his altering shots. I mean, he can alter shots. I mean, it's not really so much. I think Mitch can alter a lot of shots in that. And when somebody throwing a hand in your face, your jump shot, you know he's gonna fall. I think Mitch he got that agility to do that. You know what I mean? For sure.
I'll use a line from the Queen and say it depends on what Brook Lopez shows up. You know, like he has a tendency to disappear in games. He has a tendency to only shoot jumpers. You know what I mean? If he uses his strength down low, I think he has the advantage against Mitch. If he's staying outside on the perimeter, I think the advantage falls for us.
I disagree with that. Wholeheartedly. I think the biggest problem for Mitchell Robinson on defense last year, outside of the obvious, him not having the girth, but the biggest weakness for Mitchell Robinson was defending the three ball. On all the games that Mitchell Robinson played against centers who were able to step out and knock that three down, they were knocking it down at a very high clip, and Mitchell Robinson couldn't do anything about it. You look at the game against Oklahoma City when we went against Al Horford. You look at the game when we went against Vucevic early on in the season. Mitchell Robinson struggles with centers who can be able to step out and knock that three down. So if he gets better at it, obviously I think the matchup will be way closer. But based on Brook Lopez's ability to be crafty, or not only around the rim, but knocking down the three-point shot, rebounding the basketball, I think Brook Lopez has this matchup.
Mitch is one of the best guys at blocking three-point shots, period, center or otherwise.
I don't think you can even base Mitch's game last year for 31 games. I think what Mitchell Robinson could do with them feet and hands is different, man. This cat get all over the place. I mean, like I said, we know Brook Lopez could drop. I think Mitchell Robinson makes it hard on any center in the NBA. Girth or no girth because of his length. Mitchell Robinson, that's why against Miami, watch what he do to Bam Adebayo. He always do. He's going to give him a problem.
But Bam is different, though, because Bam is not that tall.
That's what I'm trying to say, because Mitch could do that to small and tall people. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say his versatility for his free throw. He's versatile, getting out and stopping, and he clogged the lanes. I just think it's much more than just thinking that it's going to be like, I'm going to guard you one-on-one and you're going to score on me. I don't think that's the way basketball is played. So in a sense, I don't think Brook Lopez is going to always. That's not the case. I think Brook Lopez can go on the screen. Mitchell Robinson, I just think it's going to be different with Mitchell Robinson. I don't think that Brook Lopez, on a day-to-night out basis, gonna give it to Mitchell Robinson. Not that young man. I think he's athletic enough, he's linky enough to cause problems. I just think that's what he is. I mean, I grant that he ain't got girth, but I do think Mitchell Robinson causes problems against a lot of NBA teams, man. He just got the type of athleticism to do that.
So here's my bad, Steph. I'm sorry. Here's what I'll say about that. I'm just going by based on what I've seen last year in the games that Mitchell Robinson did play. One of his major struggles was being able to step out and defend centers who can step out. And I'm not just talking about blocking shots. Defending the three-point line is not just being able to block three-point shots. I'm talking about being able to defend centers who can be able to take it off the dribble a little bit. And I think that was the biggest problem for Mitchell Robinson last year. If you look at the games, all the games that he played against those centers who can be able to step out, that was an issue.
But Lopez,
the major issue.
Lopez is not that. He's not like, occasionally you'll get a pump fake if you fall for it. Maybe he gets to the rim, but that's not his game. That's not something that putting the ball on the floor. That's not something that I'm worried about with him. He does have those large strides and things of that nature. I'm saying Mitch could win that matchup. It's not a surefire thing that Brook has the advantage over Mitchell Robinson. No way. It's not just putting the ball on the floor. It's being able to play make when you put the ball on the floor.
Brook Lopez is a phenomenal passer. He's a really good passer. That was what made him really good when he played in Jersey.
How many years ago was that? That's what I'm saying. He's not the same guy that he used to be.
They're playing him different. I think he still has those skills, but they're playing him different.
In the playoffs, DeAndre Ayton was killing Brook Lopez, dog. I mean, Brook Lopez is old now. He don't jump like he used to. Mr. Robinson down in the paint, a slam all over that kid. I mean, he jumps higher than Brook Lopez. Mr. Robinson, 7 foot, who jumped almost 30 meters. Brook Lopez don't get up that high. So sometime Mr. Robinson going to be able to beat that cat off the dribble, off the bounce, because he's just more athletic than Brook Lopez is, and that's just dealing with physics. I think Mitchell Robinson more quicker off the foot than he is. I think Mitchell Robinson is more linky than he is. Brook Lopez is slower now. He's slowed down a lot, man. I mean, really, and I just think that Mitchell Robinson, I get it what he might have had Josh, what he might have did against God. That don't mean you could justify his whole career or his whole season because he did it in the first half of the season. He wasn't in shape, might not have been ready, but I think his skill alone, I'm just talking about skill. Mitchell Robinson's skill set, I think we undermate his skill set. I think his skill set.
But Devon, do you You talked about Mitch putting the ball on the floor. Do you see Mitch doing that? Like, do you see that in Mitch games where he's going to be putting the ball on the floor and taking it to the rim, or he's going to be more of like a lob threat?
Who, me?
Yeah, in terms of Mitch.
Oh, I didn't say he was putting the ball on the floor.
I thought I heard you say that Mitch is going to be putting the.
Okay. From a defense standpoint, I'm talking about my man. Now, Brook Lopez put the ball on the floor. I just think he's slower than he used to be, and even like I said,
yeah, I mean,
you don't have to.
I get it.
I get to be super.
But here's my points. What I'm trying to say is, Mitchell Robinson plays like DeAndre Ayton. I'm talking about the type of style of play. They lanky, they fast, they athletic. And look what my man was doing him. And I just think that it's a different problem when you got quicker, faster young guys on these older guys. I mean, Mitchell Robinson is a fast dude, bro. He's tall. I'm not saying he's better than Brook Lopez by no means. I don't think that you can say that's like almost like he's that better than Mitchell Robinson. I don't believe that whatsoever. I think Mitchell Robinson, his game, you look at the overall game, Mitchell Robinson's defense is better than his, way better than his, night and day. He's quicker than he is. So, yeah, on the offense standpoint, that's what we all basing the NBA on, then that's different. But if you want to talk about collectively, Mitchell Robinson's defense is 3 times better than his.
It is. But I also think Brook Lopez is a more disciplined player than Mitchell Robinson is right now. I think Mitch is a little raw. But I think it's going to happen on both ends. I think that if Brook Lopez makes it hard on Mitch, I think Mitch is also going to make it hard on him in terms of God, being a lob threat. Brook Lopez, is slow. I think he's always been slow, but there was a game, I believe, when Giannis was out and they had to play him in the post more, and he did all right. So I don't think he's lost those skills he had with the Nets. I just think they're not using him that way. You want to give the edge to Mitch? I mean, I'm not gonna argue too much, but I don't see Mitch as this guy that's going to be running into a corner, guarding the three, guarding at the 3-point line, moving his hand. Yeah, but I mean, I'm okay with giving him the edge. I'm okay with giving him the edge.
He's out of position. He recovers better than probably any center in the league.
Absolutely. Yeah, and plus it's switching too. Even when Brook lets you the 3-point shot, it's not saying Mitch would have been on him. That might be a switch from a guard and Mitch goes somewhere else. I just think that we overestimated Brook Lopez and he didn't have to run out of block threes. I mean, Knicks play switch defense. They play team defense. So Mitchell Robinson now always going to be in that situation. So I think Mitchell Robinson, I don't think Mitch is better than Brook Lopez, but I wouldn't give Brook Lopez no edge over him. Like that makes a difference in the game. I don't think so. I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
Yeah, we can disagree on that. That's fine.
Yeah, and that's totally that's totally fine. I hear the chat is talking about that we would have the edge as far as the bench is concerned. I mean, I think as far as our bench, it looks strong, but that really depends on IQ and Obi really taking. It doesn't have to be a huge step, but taking a step in terms of being more consistent, somebody that you can count on. If they do that, because I'm comfortable with Noel, who basically started most of the games for us last season. I'm comfortable with Burke. He's played in the season in the NBA for multiple years now. I'm comfortable with D Rose. Like those 3 guys, I think are going to be fairly consistent on our bench. And Obi and IQ. It remains to be it remains to be seen. But Jeff Teague, he's all right. Hood, Bobby Portis played very, very well for them. So I do think that our roster is better. But like I said, I don't think we're going to be ahead of them in the Eastern Conference unless there's a lot of injuries on their part.
Yeah, they locked in as 1 and 2 for sure.
Yeah. And we may have that. Even if we have the edge at the 2 and the 5, I still don't think that's, that's enough. Anything else about, so we played them, I believe 4 times. What do you think our record, what are we looking at?
Oh, yeah. don't want to say 0-4. I'm more confident in that, but I might have to go
1-3.
Yeah, I would go Milwaukee 3-1.
Yeah, I would agree. Tone, same. As far as our record, if we play,
I'm sorry.
it's okay.
I didn't know I was muted.
if
1-3.
right. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty good. All right. Last but not least, gonna talk about our crosstown. I don't even know if we could call it a rival at this point, but the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant. I don't even know if Blake is going to start, but it's cool. This may change up. Blake Griffin, Nicholas Claxton on the bench, Patty Mills, a new addition, DeAndre Bembry. I'm not sure if he's going to start. Joe Harris, Millsap, which is a new addition. LaMarcus Aldridge is back. I'm not sure what type of shape he's in. I would think, he'll be ready. And then situational. They got two. The good gets better in Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharpe. And I think James Johnson, if this is the same James Johnson that I think it is, he played on. Is this the same James Johnson that played for Miami at one point? He's a very good player. And Brown, I forgot what his name was. He played very well for them last year, and they still had Mike James on the roster. I got this from ESPN. Chat helped me out if he actually is still on the roster. So the Brooklyn has upgraded, in my opinion. With Millsap, Aldridge. For them, I think it's all Patty Mills is all about health. But before we get into whether or not we think we've gained any ground, what's your overall take on their roster?
Slow and talented. Right. Slow and talented. They playing half court ball next year, but that's crazy.
I would say this. I think this is year 2 of this experiment because we've never seen 3 players of their caliber coming together. I know we had previous big threes in the past with Boston and Miami, but I think with these 3 guys, I think it's on another level. So this is year 2 of that experiment. They got one more year to build that, camaraderie and things of that nature. Normally it takes a second year before a team like these super 3 or big 3 teams get together for them to really compete for championships. So this is going to be a big year for this team. And I do want to say this. Again, with this COVID vaccination, with all of that, I think it's a big if Kyrie Irving decides not to take this shot. Because he seems like the holistic type and against all of that stuff. So I think that's going to be big for this team if Kyrie Irving is not going to be there, if he decides to retire and things of that nature. So,
right. They lost. I forgot to mention they lost DeAndre Jordan because they traded him. Jeff Green signed, I want to say, with Denver or Utah. And Shamet is also not there. I think losing Jeff Green was big for them. But if these other guys stay healthy, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think Millsap could cover what they lost with Green. Maybe not so much on the defense on the perimeter, but defense in the post, absolutely. Yeah, this team is ridiculous. It's not fair.
Yeah. Let's start 5 off the hook, but the second unit slow. I mean, that's not a defensive second unit in here. I don't think.
But that's a good playoff second unit as well.
It is. Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's a good half court second unit as well.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's dope. Like I said, but at the same time, you still got to play defense too. You know what I mean? You got to stop the other person. So, and I just think, they starting 5 is on another level. They on another level. I like our chances against older Aldridge, or older Millsap against Noel and Obi Toppin running up and down the floor with Derrick Rose on Patty Mills. I like that fight because I do think we play a better team defense than them, and I think we faster than they are. But for us individual talent, they got it. They got it, bro. I ain't gonna front them boys is all. They're gonna be something terrible. Them in Milwaukee gonna be something terrible to deal with next year, man. It's pretty tough.
Yeah. I know I disagreed with Josh when he said about the starting lineup, and I forgot which team we were talking about, Miami. I was like, oh, whatever, we don't, if they're ahead of us as far as the starters, we'll make it up with the bench. Nah, not here. Not here. I mean, I think they're going to be far ahead. And listen,
they got knocked
even if Irvin doesn't play, like, just say if he was never on this team, if you got Harden and Durant on the same team, you still got a shot.
Plug Patty Mills in the starting lineup. That's all you got to do with that, and that's not scary.
Not even. You moved Harris to the 2 and put James Harden at the 1.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And Mike James, he folded in pretty good too. So he's a pretty decent player. They got a deep team, man. That's scary.
I forgot that James Harden led the NBA in assists per game last year at some point.
Exactly.
I totally forgot about that.
Right. Shout out to Rich Boy. Steph, you are wrong. Nets regress. Those guys old.
We all wrong, Steph. We all wrong.
Yeah, I mean, listen. If the Nets are healthy, I think I don't think the Knicks, even with the changes we've made, even with Kemba healthy, I think that the Knicks will finish behind the Brooklyn Nets if they are healthy. What would it take for the Knicks to finish ahead of Brooklyn?
Kyrie Irving not taking a shot, James Harden getting hurt, and Kevin Durant. I honestly don't know.
I mean, listen, if you take out those two guys and it's only Kevin Durant, then I think the Knicks have a good shot. But
I don't know about that either, Steph.
With just Kevin. Wait, hold on. You take it, no Kyrie, no Harden. Durant, Griffin, I just don't think. I don't think Durant can do it by himself.
Steph, remember the game that the Knicks played the Nets? I think they just made the Harden trade. Kyrie was out. It was Kevin Durant out there playing with a bunch of role players. Kevin Durant destroyed us.
Right, but I'm talking about in a series though.
Oh, that's a little bit different.
Yeah, right. Oh, no, you're right. I'm not talking about in a series. I'm talking about like in a season. What would it take for us to finish ahead? You think Kevin? Now they ain't gonna be playing against us 82 games. They got to play other teams. If Kyrie and Harden is out, I don't know if Durant. Yeah, I think the Knicks would finish ahead if we're not hit by injuries.
Right.
If we're not hit by injuries, we're a healthy team, and it's Durant and those two guys are out, Josh, you still don't think we would finish ahead of them?
So you slide Joe Harris. Who you slide Joe Harris and who in the starting? Who you said you put Joe Harris in there with?
Joe Harris and Patty Mills. Yeah, Joe Harris, Patty Mills. You can probably put Claxton on the bench, start Aldridge at the 5. They got a little bit of options, and don't sleep on Bruce Brown. He played major minutes for them last season. Mike James played a lot of minutes for those guys last year.
I'd start Mike James over Patty Mills. I'd let him rock with the bench and be a 6-man candidate.
That's a good idea too.
I would addition to Kemba Walker and Emma Fournier. I understand what you said about last year, but last year we had Emma Fournier and Kemba Walker neither. So I think this year with that roster we got this year, I think if they lose Harden and my man, we can deal with them. I believe that. For sure.
Yeah, it'll be competitive. It'll definitely be competitive. But I just remember the Nets when they only had Kevin Durant and we went up against them and we got our behinds busted.
Right.
They took Kevin Durant out in the fourth quarter, let the bench come in the game, and then Thibodeau started running the full court press, and then we made the game close. Steve Nash put Durant back in the game. He came in and closed us out.
Right, but we're talking about over the course of a series, over the course of a season. Yes, definitely. I can see Durant for a game or two, or even just against the Knicks. And we go 0-4 against them, but they got to play other teams too. But It's just interesting that that's what it would take.
I was about to say
that's what it would take for the Knicks to finish ahead of them. Two of those three guys would have to go down for the Knicks to finish ahead of
I was just about to say this is like embarrassing that we literally here talking about if these two guys are out all season, can we have a better? You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
They stack, man. They stack, but
That's
it's the
sad.
NBA. It's the NBA. You know how I go hard.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen, man. I do think we're better than them defensively. Though they kill it, but defensively they can't touch the Knicks. On that end of the floor, they cannot touch the Knicks on the defense level.
But I don't think we got the same defense, Devon. So I can't wait for like the first 10, 15, 20 games of the season because there's a lot of things I want to see about the Knicks. Our offense, is it going to be more dynamic? And I really want to see our defense. What is it going to be now with players that are not as strong as the defensive players we let go? And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay giving up a little defense for more offense. So I don't really have a problem with it. But I don't know if we're going to be that lockdown team where when you come in, whatever you were averaging, take 10 points off of that when you play the Knicks. I'm not sure if we're going to still be that.
I think at the guard spot and Reggie Bullock, but I do think Reggie Bullock is not like a major leap over Evan Fournier. I think from watching Evan Fournier, me seeing him play in Orlando, he always in the cat's grill. He always did. I mean, he's not a weak defense player. And I've been watching.
No, I agree with that.
He plays good defense, so we might lose a little bit. And here's one thing about Kemba Walker: he probably take more charges than him and Kyle Lowry. Probably take more charges than anybody in the NBA from a point guard perspective. I mean, Kemba Walker takes a lot of charges. He's always in front of that ball. So I think the Knicks play team defense, and I think when Mitchell Robinson coming back helps a great deal. So I don't know. I don't see it losing too much. I think Mitchell Robinson coming back to the Knicks play hopefully a full season instead of 31 games is a big difference. I think our defense.
Right, he's gonna get in foul trouble though if those guys are letting those people get in the lane, and he has to keep coming up and helping from their mistakes that potentially puts him in position to get in more foul trouble. Listen, I don't think our defense is going to be as strong. But I think our differential, remember in the beginning of the season, our point differential between offense and defense was 0.9.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't even what I mean. That means you had to be on point. You couldn't make any mistake. I think even if we go from 4 to 8 and we're scoring more points, I think we're going to be fine. I think the differential is not going to be 1 point. And that's going to make it easier for us.
Am I reading this right? 186 people in the chat, only 20 likes. Can we hit that like button? Bring them likes up. Bring them likes up.
Yeah, man, you got all this free knowledge in here, man, giving y'all this content, man. Y'all run amok with the thumbs up. Come on now.
Yeah, I got 108 likes.
Oh, okay.
But we could still bring it up some.
My joint must be frozen over here on 20. I'm like, this ain't right.
Do Brooklyn beat Milwaukee fully healthy?
I don't think so.
No.
It's because of what Devon said earlier, that defense. We got to see how Brooklyn is able to play defense. I think if they do it, it'll be the first time in NBA history. That's why this is a huge experiment right now, that a team can be able to win the championship without having a really good defense. If this team can play even an inch of defense, I think they win. But as of right now, we don't know what they bring defensively, and that was a big liability for them last season. They have
nobody for Giannis. Nobody.
Nope.
Yeah, and you can argue that I don't think they have anybody for KD either, but you can argue that maybe Giannis makes it a little harder for him. Maybe. Shout out to the chat, Kevin Bergen. Patty Mills was a big acquisition for the Nets. The Nets. I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The spirit of the rivalry will always keep this interesting. We may even win some games. Brooklyn Butch and Alton Lee. Why we always want everyone else to be decimated and we fully healthy? That's true. When we look at other teams, it's like, they can be healthy, but we gonna be good. We're not gonna have any risk. So I think.
I like seeing full load. I want to see the Knicks go up against them. It's good for the Knicks to go up against them cats like that. Okay, let me know. We're gonna see what we can do against these cats, and then I kind of let them know where they at. how really good are we? If you compete against the Brooklyn Nets, that's telling me Knicks know that they competing against a team like that, they're gonna have a good season. So I'm dying to see that. For sure.
And if I can piggyback, I know we're making it seem like Brooklyn, they have a really stacked roster. There's no doubt about that. But one thing I want Knicks fans, and I hope Knicks fans can be able to realize is, you still got to go out and play them games. You still got to you still got to go out and play them games, no matter who's on the roster, whatever. That's the reason why you play. So when Knicks fans say that, oh, I don't want to bring in that player because that player doesn't get us over the hump to beat a team like Brooklyn, the point is not to put yourself in to get a player so that you can beat them. It's to put yourself in a position where you can be able to compete with them, where maybe an injury happens here and there, maybe a call goes the right way, and then we can be able to win some games. So that's the type of position I want the Knicks to be in, be able to compete with a team like Brooklyn. So in the event that, dominoes fall our way, we can be able to win some games and go about it that way.
Right. And the last question, we talked about the X factor in the beginning. And I know Tony and Tony and Josh said, if RJ gets to that all-star level, that significantly raises our ceiling. I said, if Kemba Walker becomes the Kemba Walker of Charlotte, that significantly raises our ceiling. If any of those two things do happen, having now looked at the roster of the top three teams, at least last year, the top three teams, do you think if any of those things happen, the Knicks would overtake one of these teams and move into the top three?
We need all three to happen. We need both of those that you just highlighted, and we need that Mitchell Robinson.
We need all three to have breakout seasons.
We need all three. I mean, especially against this team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to move into the top three, period.
Okay.
And we need Philadelphia to take a significant regression.
So if RJ pops to all-star level and Kemba is Charlotte Kemba, you still need Philly to regress? You don't think that would be enough to overtake them?
Yeah, because I gotta see who Philly's gonna bring back. I think Philly being a number one team or a top team in the Eastern Conference, that means a lot the past couple seasons. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They got continuity. They have continuity. The Knicks have continuity as well. But again, Philly's been there, and I will have to see it before I can project it.
Okay. All right. Great show, fellas. I appreciate you guys. Any last words before we head out?
Josh, let them know.
Yeah, I want to plug this. I know we were talking about the Brooklyn Nets just now, but me and Tone, I'm going to have an episode of The Controversy on Wednesday, approximately 6 p.m., 6:30, or what have you. You'll get it scheduled. But it's going to be a live episode of The Controversy, and we are going to be debating/discussing Kemba Walker versus Kyrie Irving. And I'm going to be joined by special guest Tony Crow from Knicks and Bruises. Please tune in, and it's going to be a great show. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Salute everybody. Hey, appreciate the chat. Appreciate everybody chiming in wherever you're chiming in from. Queens Court in the building, the Controversy, Tone Crow, Knicks Real Talk, Knicks and Bruises, man. We in here, man. Great show, great panel, great discussion. I love it all. I love this passion that we got for this club. I'm looking forward to the season, man. Knicks Real Talk. We're gonna be smashing these NBA cats. Knicks go get it. That's what it is.
Queen, thanks for having me on. Shout out to the chat. Josh already told you, check out that Controversy, that Knicks and Bruises Controversy. And we'll see y'all Wednesday. Your Blackest Time.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys supporting me from the beginning. Tony, Josh, Devon, and it's all love. You guys can disagree with me. I appreciate the respect. I do appreciate the respect, but you guys can disagree with me. Devon, I appreciate you. It's okay to disagree with me. And the same for the chat. It's okay to disagree with me. I'm gonna read the comments after the show. I mean, I got the business the last show where we was talking about
RJ. Why it's hard just due to the fact of the definition of sister. That's what,
it's okay.
For me, that's why I gotta always make sure listen, yo sis, I get amped when I'm talking Knicks, but
right,
it's all
right. No. It's not personal. It's not personal at all.
I know that.
Yeah, so it's okay. It's okay to disagree. Yes.
And get that Queens Court merchandise.
Yes. The Queens Court merchandise. The link to the Nothing But Knicks store is down below. I'm gonna give me a big batch of merchandise as well, and hopefully you guys will join us when we go to the opening game for Knicks. I think Divine from Knicks Real Talk will be there. I'll be there. I don't think Josh is coming up. Are you coming up, Josh?
I gotta work that week, but I'm still trying to make something happen. So maybe you might see my face in the building.
I would love to meet you, man.
Hey,
Make
Josh,
a controversial appearance.
Get up and at the Charlotte game, man. Charlotte. And let's get together and go down there and represent, man. I'm going. I'll be there.
Oh yeah, I'm going there. It's like couple minutes away from where I live. So
right.
Awesome.
I get with you, man. We get up in there and just hang out, man, and just enjoy the game or whatever.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and there'll be other opportunities for us to get together with the people in the chat, the MBK fans, Nick Real Talk fans. So that's it. Be easy, Nick fans. Be easy with us. Be easy with each other. And I'll catch you next week. We out.
Salute.
Salute.